Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of art. It feels like it's beginning to open up and come back to some sense of normality. Borderline is a new production currently showcasing at the Market Theatre. So let's talk about this one because this sounds great. Lerato Mvelase joining us to talk about this. Lerato, always lovely to have you, especially in person.
I know, right?
Don't get me wrong, I understand the Zooms work for people, but it's nice to have you back.
We need that interaction.
And that's exactly what we want at Market Theatres, don't we? We want this.
We want people to come in.
I mean, how's it been during COVID?
Yeah.
How's it been?
I mean, during COVID, they have to do a lot of live streaming shows, which was very peculiar, especially for people that want live performances, that watch theatre. They want to go into the space and have that human interaction and have that
so
real...
So performers.
Yeah, so there's a performance, exactly, right? But there's adjustments that had to be made, and we were thinking of creative ideas to still tell stories and still entertain people. You know, to how much it worked, I'm not quite sure, but I know that people are hungry to go out.
And they are now. They've got a great excuse, Borderline. I don't want to give too much away, but I wanted you to tell me about this. So just give me the high-line version of what Borderline is. Let's try and get some people to come watch Borderline. What is it?
Borderline is about borderline personalities. And it's amazing how currently the country has been talking about, you know, mental illness. People are depressed, people are dealing with the anxiety, people are dealing with their childhood traumas, and that's what Borderline is about.
Especially the young people even. That's gotten worse.
Everyone, really, you know. I guess COVID gave us an opportunity to really reflect on our own lives, because now you had to face yourself, you had to think about where you come from, you had to think about your family, how you're treating your wife, your children. And so Uncle Paul Slabelewski wrote Borderline, and it's just amazing that it came at the perfect time, you know, when people are dealing with issues of mental illness. It's a story about a son, Raymond, played by Anthony Coleman, with his wife, Faith, played by myself, who go into this old age home to come meet the father, Vaughan, played by Paul Slabelewski, after 23 years of father and son not seeing each other, because the father was extremely abusive, abused the family, abused the mother, abused the son, Raymond. And for the first time, they're seeing each other, encouraged by the wife, because they're about to relocate to Canada.
Immigrate.
They're about to immigrate, yes. And there's this volcanic engagement between father and son, because the son is telling him, do you understand what you did to us? Do you understand the kind of abuse that we had to endure and how it's continues to affect him, you know, as a husband, as a member of society? And Faith is witnessing this volcanic, contentious engagement between the two of them. And I guess this play is really about people having to reflect on who are we in our families? How do we contribute to these toxic engagements?
How do we damage our families?
How do we damage our families? How do we damage our children? And I think it's a perfect time for us as a country to kind of start having those type of talks. You know, people don't want to deal with stuff that happened in the past. You know, I'm the father, and there's this cultural inertia that's toxic, you know, where as a man of the house, I don't explain myself to my children. I don't have to explain myself to my wife.
I'm the final word.
You know what I mean? And it's those type of things that we now have to kind of start talking about them. How do these things affect our children and the human beings or adults they become in the future?
Off the back of what you mentioned about the live streaming, I've always wondered, when it's very easy to live stream something and people can watch it on whatever device they have. Would you think, I mean, we don't have to get into numbers here, it might be difficult to quantify, but do you think people who ordinarily would not have been theatre goers needed something to watch during COVID? They clicked on, say, the Market Theatre, saw a live stream. Do you think you might have gotten a new audience that said, once it opens up again, I'd actually like to go watch this live? Most
definitely. You know, as much as there's cons, you know, with what COVID brought to us, there's also pros. You know, people who are tech savvy, you know, who want to watch different channels on ETV, and now they had an opportunity to say, okay, what else is there? You know, what else can I go watch? And they open an app on the Market Theatre app, and they see a play for like 20 minutes, because the plays weren't long, right? And it's like, okay, so there's something interesting.
But they took data costs into account, didn't they?
Yes,
a lot of the time.
Yes. So we have really gained a new young audience, which is great. We need young people to go to theatre, and I'm really hoping that they continue coming to come.
Like I said, now you've got a great excuse with Borderline. I want to just talk about what your experience as a professional has been in the theatre arena the last couple of years. But before I do that, because I always forget to ask, when is Borderline showing? Where can people watch? I always forget to ask that question. I get tweeted all the time going, Gareth, when is it showing? And I'm like, I actually didn't ask. So when is it?
It's on currently at the Market Theatre, Tuesdays to Sundays. Okay. Tuesday to Saturday, it's 7 p.m. show, 7 till about 8:15. So it's not a long play. Yeah. And on Sundays, it's at 3 p.m. So 3 to about 4:15. So
it's almost like a matinee show.
It's a matinee, definitely.
So can I then ask, how difficult has this been for you as a professional over the last years? Yes, there's the live streaming, but on the SA Morning, Tumela Mototwana and I interview a number of bands and performers. And I think the damage has been done, and we're all looking forward to going back to normal. But how damaging was that for you in your career?
No, it was extremely damaging because, I mean, how do we tell stories when people are not coming to theatre? How do actors get paid? Musicians get paid? How do creatives get paid? We get paid by people coming to be entertained. And that wasn't happening anymore. So people lost houses, people couldn't afford school fees, lost their cars. And you know, I'm really hoping that as the country opens up, even the Department of Arts and Culture understands how we need to open it up, you know, obviously with precaution, but it needs to be opened up so that the industry can start working again. People can get back to having their lives. You know, artists we're like at the bottom of the barrel, really. You know, we don't have companies that give us, you know, bonuses and pay us for working at home. You have to come to work to,
Is the department helpful? They'll tell us they are.
Is it?
They'll tell us they are.
I mean, personally, I would say there's a lot that still needs to be done. I'm not saying nothing. I mean, the fact that we don't have enough developmental spaces, you know, for young creatives. There's so many young people on the streets that are creative. You know, how come is the arts and culture not coming up with ideas of accommodating those children who can't do formal schooling? That's something that should have been dealt with a long time ago. It hasn't been dealt with, you know. So young people they end up on the streets because they feel like they're not worthy of being in a formal schooling. They can't absorb the content, not because they're dumb or stupid, but because they're not aligned.
So, Lerato Mvelase, I've just nominated you as the new Minister of Arts and Culture. I've just promoted you. You have one thing that you want to do. What would that be?
I would come up with a policy for creatives. That's the first thing I would do. Because we are in an industry that we're really not considered, you know. You come to work, you're protected in some way, you know. There is stability in some way. We don't have any form of stability. I mean, I came into the industry 29 years ago, and it's still the same, if it's not worse. I mean, there are new opportunities with, you know, the internet, with social media. Younger people are getting other things or other ways of making money. But, you know, those people who are just actors, those people who are just singers, what is there for them? You get a gig, you work for 3 months, 4 months, you're a father, you're a mother. After that, then what?
Then what? There's no plan.
There's no plan. You do a job, you don't have a standard rate for actors. It can't carry on like that.
I want to ask you about a rumour I heard in a moment. Not a bad rumour, a good rumour, but I want to just finish off the conversation around the department very quickly. Yeah. What are those interactions like? Who speaks on your behalf? Who does Lerato go to and raise this with to get to the minister in this case? How does that happen?
How does it happen, Gareth? I mean, artists we have so many organizations. You know, we're not speaking in the same voice, because Gareth has his own organization that I'm part of, and there's somebody, Lerato Mvelase, has got an organization speaking for other actors. We're not speaking in one voice. 2, we don't have people who are like producers and channels that can make a difference. I mean, if a channel says, I will not do a show that pays my actors less than this.
Like standards.
That means there has to be money for creatives, and that's in all spectrums. There has to be a certain budget for creatives so that people can actually have a livelihood.
So this is what you're talking about, a policy, but it's more about a policy framework and regulation.
Yeah.
That's where it would actually go
to. That's what we need.
And I'm hoping we're going to try and pick this conversation up, because now you've sparked something. I think a much bigger conversation. We're going to try and follow that up. In fact, not try, we will.
We will.
With other organizations. Tell me about this rumour that Lerato wants to retire. That can't be true.
It is true, Gareth. Like I said, you know, when I came into the industry 29 years ago, I was...
What, you were 4 years old?
I was a teenager, actually. But thank you. I take that as a compliment. You know, I had a dream, you know, which we all do. You know, you're going to come into the industry and then you're going to end up this huge star, which I think I've done pretty well for myself, you know. But I'm at a point where I feel like I've reached a ceiling. And
by your own choosing, or just not enough opportunity?
There's just not enough, and by now I don't mean I'm unemployed, you know, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not grateful for the fact that I am working. I am really one of those that are working, and I'm grateful for that. But what else is there for me, you know?
What else is there? Last question, what do you now do? Because I think you're going to get a lot of people coming back to you and saying, Lerato, you can't retire. So we'll have this retirement argument another day. But what is next then?
For me, I'm currently studying through Regenesis Business School, doing my postgrad in business management. And I guess the idea is, you know, one day I want to be able to run the arts industry. Because one, I know what it's like. Two, I have a great idea of what needs to be done, you know. There's so many of our amazing legends who we can't be burying people. We can't be donating for actors that have done amazing work for this country. And we've got ministers who just send condolences. It can't work like that. You know, actors have to be, there has to, you know, like the reason I love the private sector so much is because there is hierarchy. And not because you have to, you know, control people, but when there's hierarchy, it helps to have standards of an industry. There's structure, there's some kind of formality, and we need that.
And I think a lot of people in the industry are going to now look at you, now that you've ousted yourself, as someone who could run and at least try and manage and get involved in the industry beyond your incredible career on stage. Lerato, I want to wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much
for coming in. There's a lot to unpack in that, of course, but one of the most important things is the state of theatre in our country at the moment, and Borderline showing now at the Market Theatre. Please go watch. I know it's all going well to watch it on live streaming, but go and support Lerato Mvelase and Borderline now playing at the Market Theatre. Thank you so much
for
coming in to speak to us this morning.